Hello there, ladies and gents. This is Renegade Operative, and today I will be doing a new entry in my series, Laughing at Salty Reviews. This is where I go upon Metacritic, I stare at the most asinine, incoherent, absurd comments on Metacritic's user score for certain games, and then I give my overall retort from there. I like to reiterate that today we will be talking about God of War 2018, one of the most critically acclaimed games of 2018 so far, with a 95% on Metacritic, but we have salty comments, so let's get right down to it. I have been playing the game for 10 hours, so I will not be spoiling anything with God of War 2018. I know a lot of people have been looking forward to playing it, so I won't be spoiling anything if I can help it, I promise you. Let's get right into it with the first comment. First up, we have the first comment with DAEEA Hitler, and he writes, "It's a good game, just not a good God of War game. Also, EA can die and is worse than a 1940s German leader." Number one is that I don't know what the fuck EA has to do with God of War or interjecting that in somewhere. I guess you're trying to be funny with your gay username, so let's just scratch that out. Number two is that it's a good game, but it's not a good God of War game. It's a good game, but you give the game a 0. Makes no fucking sense. Let's move on to the next comment here, and this is from let's pick down the list. Evil BR, and he writes, "This is not God of War. This is the new Rise of the Tomb Raider or The Last of Us Part 2. This is not Game of the Year." Well, personal Game of the Years are subjective. I mean, God of War has been getting a lot of critical acclaim. I understand that this game might not be everyone's Game of the Year. I think the game is great. I think it's a really well crafted game. It has problems here or there with the repetition, but every game tends to get repetitive every now and then. The game also gets a little bit tedious when it comes to faster enemies fighting Kratos, because you can get hit from the side, you can get hit from behind, and the threat indicators only do so much. Also, I was lost without the compass, so you might be pretty much lost in the beginning of the game until you get the compass that helps you out a great margin. I think the name of the game is to set your fucking PS4 on fire if we really are comparing a hack and slash with fucking RPG mechanics to a third-person shooter in a wide linear space. Get the fuck off the internet. Ghost Wolf Zero writes, "Pay for a video game, get a movie, a boring and expensive movie, everything a specialized media likes." Once again, I think people's definition of an interactive movie varies from mine, because if you're playing copious amounts of gameplay and you're not just watching a cutscene, then it's not a interactive fucking movie. It's like people had a sharp dildo drill into their fucking skulls when they make this logic, because it makes no sense. Flat out absolute nonsensical bullshit motherfuckery. I can't describe how stupid those comments are, because it makes no sense. I can see if the pacing of the game was akin to how it was in the original intro, where everything feels mighty slow. I really didn't like this for Uncharted 4, where everything felt super slow. You were only doing mundane tasks and that was it. God of War has a comparison to Uncharted 4 in that regard, with the fact that the intro starts slow. However, the game really picks up from there. Kratos is mellowed out. He's trying to teach Arceus how to survive in the harsh Norse world. I don't see how this equates to interactive movie because 90% of God of War is gameplay. Oh fucking god, with a name like Link the Hero, you wouldn't possibly ever fathom in your life that he wouldn't be a Nintendo fanboy. Oh no, sound the alarm. We have a fucking Reggie cocksucker at the fucking mantle. He writes, generic is the same Kratos game but with a son, and this time Kratos is not trying to kill the gods but trying to redeem himself and getting back his humanity. Enemies become repetitive, and also they change hack and slash to RPG. It's still a hack and slash game to a large degree. Actually, you're still cutting up enemies with an axe. It's a hack and slash game. It has hack and slash mechanics. You can use a fucking bladed weapon against enemies. Therefore, it's a hack and slash game. It has RPG mechanics, but that's not a bad thing. I thoroughly enjoyed the fact that you can make stronger weapons, armor. You can use Atreus to sort of do a little mixing up with the gameplay, make him do certain things that can catch enemies off guard. I like that very much. It makes it all feel very tactical. I guess your P-brain probably won't understand that, but still, you know, I can agree the enemies can come in a very repetitive fashion, especially with the Draugr enemies that always spawns everywhere because they are complete assholes, but that doesn't make the game bad. They like to mix it up and put in new enemies from time to time. I've played a lot more boring hack and slash titles where the enemy variety really didn't change. I pretty much find this game a guilty pleasure, but Ghost Rider was a game that barely mixed it up, so I think that your complaining is very, very just stupid to me. And also, a lot of shit these people say, I swear to God, is gonna be the Last of Us hate train, because a majority of these comments are pretty much just that. God of War became the Last of Us. Moving on, let's continue to the next comment. Okay, we have a comment that's not a fucking Last of Us shitmonger fest, but this guy has a very riveting name for that purpose. I welcome to the stand Lord Fartstein. He writes, the new over-the-shoulder camera angle eliminates the most distinctive element of the God of War franchise, the epic scale of grand environments and titanic enemies. Now it's just like every other third-person action game with repetitive scenery and puny enemies. Even the dragons are shrimps. Despite this gross reduction in enemy size, the close-in camera often takes in no more than nondescript patches of flesh, and whenever you are launching melee attacks on enemies slightly larger than yourself, such as the frequent trolls, your screen is likely to be centered on their nether regions. A complete betrayal of the franchise and a terrible game. 0 stars. Alright, let's begin breaking this down. So, God of War and titanic enemies. Sure, you fight a lot of enemies bigger than you. I see no issue with this because God of War really didn't start introducing bigger, larger than life boss fights until God of War 2. And even then, like, you know, the enemies I fought in the new God of War, they were a pretty susceptible challenge. I think when it comes to size, you know, sometimes size doesn't matter when it comes to fighting a good opponent. And I will say, the first boss, that was a very riveting fight. But the boss fights are few and far between. That's the only problem that bugs me. The trolls, or Draugr, whatever the fuck they're called, they do come in a mass quantity and they can be annoying. However, it doesn't really deduce or take away from the experience, considering that all the enemies in their own way keep the player on their toes, and that's the most important part about God of War. Introducing enemies that are pretty spectacular to fight, and this game does do that with the enemies presented. I can see it getting stale a little bit in between. That is a personal nitpick, but it doesn't detract from the overall experience, and this is coming from a guy who hasn't beat the game yet, so the game could have more to offer later on. This guy said the scenery looks repetitive. It really doesn't. You go to new locales each and every single time, each with their own nooks and crannies, each with their own secrets that you can discover, each with their own traps and everything and stuff going on. So no, it's not a repetitive scenery. If anything, I would say the new God of War excels in all departments on scenery and keeping up with the frame rate, because from what I played, it's a solid 30 FPS, and the game also looks absolutely gorgeous. I haven't seen a game look this good since Horizon Zero Dawn, since Uncharted 4. These games are mesmerizing to look at, and the scenery being repetitive is one of the worst statements I've ever heard in a long time when you talk about God of War 2018. The last part here is that he says that the enemies are puny. I beg to differ. They've been kicking my ass so far on the second hardest difficulty. I also will say that when it comes to this complaint of doing a launcher and the camera going apeshit, I never had this issue at all. I always do heavies and launchers after a extended combo, and I never really had the camera focus on Kratos' Never region, so that is really a strange over exaggeration. I think he might be feeling something for the Ghost of Sparta, considering that I've never seen the camera go that loco. So if someone can discover gameplay of the camera in God of War 2018 focusing on Kratos' loins due to a launcher in the game, then please record it and upload it to YouTube, because I've never seen this before. The last comment is from JPadFoot, and he writes, after a day one patch, the game stays loading infinitely. I had to reinstall the game, and in order to do so, I had to download the whole thing again. The problem with this is that it's not a credible review to the game. You had one problem. You had to install the game again. I know it sucks, but just because you had one bad experience doesn't mean the game just doesn't work unless there's something wrong with your PS4. Contact people, check out bug codes. I doubt your game is completely inaccessible. I know some launch games, they don't run perfectly. I've seen a lot of pre-install issues with God of War, but compared to like me in particular having a problem with reinstalling a game, the game works well after the fact. I think the only time that happened to me is Uncharted 4, and it worked right after. So I would wait before doing a review, before saying the game is broken for me, and then even then there has to be another issue entirely. I think for the most part, when it comes to a lot of God of War complaints, it comes down to a lot of God of War enthusiasts, hardcore God of War fans who wanted the old style more than anything, without recognizing that they were soft rebooting this series. And then you have a lot of people comparing God of War to The Last of Us. Even though God of War plays nothing like that game, they might be just venting their frustration on the father to son relationship. I think in The Last of Us, it was the daughter to father dynamic with Joel and Ellie. Now it's the father and son dynamic with Kratos and Arceus. Just because a game has an element that is explored upon doesn't mean it plays the same. And I think that big misconception of what people are doing is really disappointing to see, because they are missing out on something that has been, for the most part, a great experience for me. But then again, some people in the world, they have shit taste when it comes to anime, food, video games, etc. Throw those people in the trash where they belong, and let's get back to playing video games and actually making smart, objective reviews on the internet. I am Renegade Operative signing out. I will see you guys next time. Later.